Now, there's a thing that explains this. Hydrologic sorting is what explains why you see layers literally everywhere, and it explains why there's trillions of fossils everywhere.
No, that does not explain fossil. Hydrologic sorting is what happens when you mix up a whole bunch of different dirt and minerals and materials, and then they naturally sort themselves out by which one is heavier. The heavier ones will be at the bottom, followed by the next heaviest and then the next heaviest. You can also do this with liquids, but this is not how fossils have been formed or distributed all over the earth. This creationist TikToker is really going to drive me insane. And hey, if you want to fuck around and find out exactly how insane this guy will drive you, then please stay tuned. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist arguments to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today, we're going to be going back to Christian TikTok because it's just a gold mine of bad arguments. Today, we're looking at It's Adam Rich. Now, Adam Rich has been posting videos on TikTok for a while, so he's got a staple of stupid up on the website. Today, we're looking at his explanation for fossils and why they appear all over the earth and why are they there in general. Typically, we would say that fossils represents one of our best physical pieces of evidence for evolution, but obviously that's not going to work for creationists because they believe in a great flood as told by the Bible. Alright, so let's see what bad argument Adam Rich has for us today.
Yes, this question comes from the fossils. Is there any scripture that explains the fossils? Absolutely. Now, the word fossil is not in the Bible. I don't even think the word existed back then. However, the great flood, the flood that Noah was a part of, this is why there is fossils.
No, this is not why there are fossils. Now, that's not to say that flooding isn't responsible for some of the fossils that we find, but also flooding and flood events are not necessary for fossils to form. There are a few problems with pinning fossils in general on the Great Flood. For one thing, there is a clear line between simple organisms to more and more complex organisms as you traverse the strata. Also, another problem for this whole Great Flood idea is the fact that we don't ever find organisms out of their particular strata. They always appear in these strata. We never find an older fossil in newer strata, and we never find newer fossils in older strata. This is because the fossils formed millions and millions of years apart, and they are representative of the diversity of life that existed at that point in time. Another thing that you could bring up in response to this Great Flood argument is that you never find any strata where an organism seems to be trying to escape the floodwaters or traversing through the strata. And then another problem that we have is that we have different rock layers in general. We have several rock layers that compose the geologic column. If the Great Flood actually happened as the Bible dictates, then we should really only see one giant strata in there. We shouldn't see the various different rock layers. We should see one rock layer that indicates a Great Flood happened. So, as you can tell, there's a lot of problems with proposing a Great Flood that covered the entire Earth as an example for fossils. That's not even mentioning the physics of flooding the entire Earth and how much water that would require, how humid the air would be, to the point that anything that was living on the earth, even after the flood, would have drowned in the atmosphere. Never mind all of that. We're just talking about the fossils and how they formed, and how the fossils that exist now in the rock layers do not indicate a Great Flood happened.
Now, a lot of atheists and anti-theists, they scoff at this just like the Bible said they would. These people are so predictable. But anyway, the reason why the flood, which they deny even happened, even though almost every single ancient culture, please look this up, almost every single ancient culture has written about a Great Flood. I wonder why. These people didn't talk to each other. Were they all hysterical? They all had the same hallucination? They all just, fantasized about a Great Flood that the Bible came about and wrote about many years later? Or is it possible that there was one?
So I have a couple of problems with this entire section. For one thing, starting off, yes, Floods have happened to a lot of different people on every single continent. And typically these flood stories are going to be found in people groups that are near these large bodies of water, either, large rivers, lakes probably, or they would have to be located near bodies of water. It's not like in the middle of the Siberian desert or whatnot, you've got people writing about a great flood. So you do have to take into account where these accounts are coming from. It's no surprise that they experienced flooding events. Flooding is just something that happens as part of our environment. So no, it doesn't take some magical explanation or some kind of psychosis happening for everybody. It just takes them experiencing a flood and thinking, oh shit, the entire world's flooding. And that's it. Number 2, I feel like this particular argument works against his own theology here, because just think about it, okay? In the Bible, God wiped out the entire earth with a flood and only left the 8 people to populate. Don't try to think about like minimum viable population, how 8 people in a people group would not be enough to stave off genetic diseases from inbreeding and genetic drift. Don't even think about that. Just focus on the fact that the entire earth was wiped out. There wouldn't be anybody around in those respective cultures to write about the flood. It would have all been Noah and his family. Unless he's trying to say that Noah's family is responsible for the Aztecs in Central America and whatever other cultures might have flooding stories. We know that couldn't have happened biologically. So even on his own theology, this idea of other cultures reporting flooding events doesn't make sense as far as being proof of a great flood.
Now let's explain how this could have happened. When you look all over the entire world and you see layers in every single mountain, cliff, canyon, hill, you name it, anywhere you look, there are layers. Now what would cause these layers? Now a lot of atheists and scientists believe that these things are like millions of years apart and billions of years apart, like they were flown in from outer space, like there were shipments of layers coming in every million or billion years, right? It's so silly. I don't even know where they come up with this stuff. Why do you think these things are millions and billions of years apart? These layers, where do they come from?
I'm glad that you asked this because, basic geology in one of your either high school or I don't know if you went to college, but I think a very basic geology class could answer this for you, but I'll give it a shot. What is the rock cycle? Basically, these layers are laid down when wind and water erosion carry minerals from mountains and other regions and deposit new layers on top of old layers. The layers that are deposited on top of the older layers compact those older layers, and they end up forming different kinds of rocks. And all of this is explained by uniformitarianism. Uniformitarianism is the scientific theory of a slow and gradual laying down of different layers over time, as we have observed them to do. And due to this scientific theory, we are able to quite reasonably and accurately date individual strata. Now, there are different ways in which we can, date the strata physically. One of those ways is radiometric dating. That's where we use the half-life of certain elements in order to have some kind of clock for these minerals and sediments and everything like that. And so by using radiometric dating and the different versions of radiometric dating that exist, we're able to also confirm the ages of the strata. So he tries to make it out to be like it's this crazy idea of aliens flying in layers to be deposited down on this earth, when really it's just the rock cycle and how wind and water erosion move dirt around on the earth, creating new layers. I mean, seriously, do I have to Google it for you? I mean, I took 5 minutes and I learned everything that I needed to know to tell you how wrong you are.
And why are they so perfect? Like, is it just shipments of different sediments are coming in at different times, like asteroids of limestone and asteroids of granite and asteroids of what you name it? They all come in at different times and they just keep bombarding the earth and making layers? What are you thinking? This is silly talk.
Oh, okay. So just a very basic description of what like limestone and granite are. Let's start with limestone. Limestone is a sedimentary rock that is primarily comprised of calcite. It's a calcium carbonate mineral, and it usually forms in clear, calm, warm, shallow marine waters. And limestone is usually a biologically sedimentary rock. Limestone usually forms with the accumulation of stuff like shells, algae, coral, fecal matter, as well as other organic matter. Limestone can also form by a sedimentary chemical process where water transports calcium carbonate from like a lake or an ocean. Granite is an intrusive igneous rock, which means that it formed in place with the cooling of molten rock. During the formation of granite, it's usually buried far below rock and other sediment. So as you can tell, all these different rocks that he's talking about formed in place. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to create these asteroids that are depositing these various forms of rock and mineral. I feel like this just goes to show that he did little to no research about this topic before coming to the conclusion that God flooded the earth.
Now, there's a thing that explains this. Hydrologic sorting is what explains why you see layers literally everywhere, and it explains why there's trillions of fossils everywhere.
So, there's a lot wrong with hydrologic sorting, as far as it being an explanation for the geologic column as well as fossils. First of all, with this great flood supposedly happening, we would expect to find one strata, not multiple different ones. When the flood mixed up all of the existing sediment on the earth, it would have all been mixed together and laid down in one layer. It would not have sorted the minerals and rocks and other sediment into these different weight classes, if you will. They would have all been mixed up, jumbled together, and laid down in one strata. And then there's a couple of different ways in which this whole explanation doesn't carry a lot of weight. First of all, we have to consider the strata themselves, because the strata are made up of different minerals and rocks, and these different minerals and rocks have different weights and densities. A lot of times in the strata, you'll notice coarse sedimentary layers being above the finer and lighter sedimentary layers. Within this particular problem, you also have the issue of the fossils being mixed up as far as their densities and weights and how big they are go. Sometimes you'll find large or dense fossils in these finer sediments, while lighter or less dense fossils are often found in the coarser or heavier sediments. And then finally, you have to consider the actual order in which we find the fossils in the rock layers themselves. Because fossils of like ammonites only appear in deep strata. And by the Great Flood hypothesis here, we would expect these guys to float to the top because they are buoyant. The same goes for the chambered nautilus fossil. They are also only found in deep strata. Under this Great Flood idea, we should expect them to be closer to the top rather than deep down near the bottom. Turtles are generally found in the middle to upper strata. Brachiopods are similar to clams, but they are only found in lower strata, while clams are found farther up in the strata. There's also the fact that most fossil-bearing strata contain fossils of various sizes and densities and weights. Simply put, hydrologic sorting cannot explain any of these things, and so with those problems in mind, you should probably reject hydrologic sorting as an explanation for why we find fossils in the various layers that we do.
Because think about this. If animals die in the wild right now, if they die in the ocean, if they die in the wilderness, doesn't really matter. They are eaten within a week. They're gone. There is no fossil being left behind from animals just dying.
Well, no. I mean, you're right that fossils are not formed from just animals dying. Also, you can't know exactly how long a carcass would stay around before it's completely consumed by various animals and other things. Also, that doesn't preclude it from being able to be made into a fossil. Another thing is that the animal doesn't have to be dead in order for it to be prepared, if you will, for fossilization. There's actually this kind of famous fossil of a protoceratops and a velociraptor duking it out, and it was actually formed after a sand dune fell on the two creatures as they were fighting each other. So they were definitely smothered and killed by the sand dune after being buried in it, and then permineralization happened after the fact. So It doesn't take the animal just dying and then having, the flesh stripped away, which is most of the time what's not in a fossil. In a fossil, you normally just have the bones. There are certain situations where the organic material can give off certain gases like hydrogen and oxygen, and they can create, impressions of the animal in the stone. But that is not required for fossilization.
It takes special conditions. It takes an animal or a plant being completely submerged in water, being mineralized from the water, and then being buried quickly so it doesn't have time to decay or be eaten. This is how fossils are made.
No, that is not how fossils are made. I just mentioned the Protoceratops and Velociraptor who were in a desert and they were covered by a sand dune. And so that wasn't them being submerged by water and being fossilized by the water, just being submerged in the water and then being buried by dirt. And there's various ways in which fossils can be formed. I mean, the mosquitoes in the amber that, we all know from Jurassic Park, those are fossils. The sap would encase that mosquito and then it would turn into amber and that mosquito would be preserved. That doesn't require water whatsoever. Another type of fossilization that doesn't require water would be more of an impression type of fossil. That would be where the animal is encased by dirt or mud or something like that, and an impression is made, and their bones aren't fossilized, but the impression of the animal is imprinted on the sediment, which then hardens and gives us a very nice, clear picture of what the animal looked like. So his whole explanation as to how fossilization occurs is just simply wrong. I feel like what he's probably getting at here is the chemical processes of permineralization. That would be where some animal is encased in mud and probably covered with water in some kind of way, and the water would actually seep through the sediment, carrying along with it minerals as it got to the animal that was buried, and it would then start to replace the organic material that was in the sediment with other minerals, thereby creating sort of a shadow, a mold, if you will, of the animal's bones. The animals are simply not just dumped in water, fossilized, and then are covered with dirt, which is how I think that he was describing it. But I don't know, maybe I just misunderstood what he said.
And so it's fascinating to me that people think that all these trillions of animals just died in between these different layers and they just weren't eaten.
So, as I pointed out before, the fact that the animals are eaten or are in any way damaged, or like their fleshy organic matter is like ripped off of their bones, that doesn't really matter as far as fossilization occurs. What matters is that there is some kind of organic material there for the minerals to do their work on, or for the impression to be imprinted on the sediment as it hardens into rock. Like, that's all that's required of it. It doesn't matter if the animal's eaten or even destroyed in some kind of way. We would still be able to find fossils of their bones or whatever remnants remain.
Also, you can look this up. I forgot the actual term. It starts with a P, but there's trees that are in between different layers. Some of them are standing up, some of them are upside down, and they are traversing in between layers that are supposedly thousands, if not millions of years apart. How do these trees last that long and get buried by the sediments that are flown in from aliens outer space?
Well, let's disregard the whole aliens from outer space thing, because that's just him being ridiculous and trying to straw man evolution or uniformitarianism or just the basics of geology. He's trying to make all of that seem ridiculous, and so that's fine. He just doesn't understand science, it seems. But what he's talking about here are polystrate fossils, and this has been a well-known and explained phenomena for a while now. In fact, when the first polystrate fossils were found, we were able to explain how they came to be that way. So they are not evidence of creationism or a great flood or anything like that. One of the key factors that points us towards the idea that these polystrate fossils don't mean anything for the creationist argument is the fact that just below these polystrate fossils of trees, what we have is this layer of rock that used to be the root system of the tree that is jutting through the strata. So this soil horizon line, if you will, below these polystrate fossils indicate that the trees just stayed in place where they were, and so they were either rapidly buried by a flood or something else, and then slowly accumulated sediments over time, which had them poking out through the different layers of strata. He also mentioned upside down trees, which, if you'll remember, I said that, flooding or a fast deposit of a bunch of sediment or whatever could explain some trees being turned upside down by that particular catastrophic event. The upside down trees are also kind of an outlier because they're not often found. The most often found type of polystrate fossils are from trees with their root system firmly planted right beneath them in a soil horizon.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. What explains it is hydrologic sorting. If you take a bunch of different elements and minerals and granite and dirt and all kinds of things, you put it all, not granite, gravel, I meant to say. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Take a bunch of different sediments, put it all in a jar filled with water, shake it all up like crazy, much like the conditions during the Great Flood when the earth was spinning like crazy and everything was submerged. And then you set the jar on the table. Within 20 minutes to an hour, you're going to see layers form. If you want, throw in a couple of fossils. Throw in a couple of toys. You'll see fossils being made.
No, you will not see fossils being made. That is not how fossils are made. It takes a long time for fossilization to occur, okay, for one. For two, I've actually seen Kent Hovind take this jar where he's got a bunch of different types of sediment in it, and he shakes it up, and then it eventually settles, and it sort of sorts itself, at least a little bit, into these, different strata. But that's not indicative of how it would occur if there was a great flood. Like I said before, that is not how floods work. And we know this because there are several strata out there that were created by floods. And they don't have multiple different layers within that one layer. It's just the one layer. And that's it. Because that's how floods work. So it makes no sense to suggest that the Great Flood laid out all the different kinds of layers when they don't follow the hydrodynamic type of physical laws that they would have to. You have coarser sediments appearing above finer sediments, and then as far as fossils go, you see various different sizes of fossils within these layers, but also you have different sizes and densities of fossils appearing at various and odd places if there was a great flood. Like I said with the Ammonites, they would have been in the deep strata, and that's the only place we ever find them, while heavier objects are seen in newer strata. And that doesn't make a lot of sense if you're talking about a great flood. So there's a lot of problems with the hydrologic sorting, as well as his understanding of what fossilization is. But I don't think that you really got to look too far in order to debunk or to prove how the creationists get these types of simple things wrong. Well, heathens, that's going to be it for the video today. If you will, please go down below in the comments and let me know what you thought of Adam Rich's video. Do you think that he has good points? Or do you think that he needs to do a little bit more studying on the geology side of things, as well as fossils and stuff? Let me know down below in the comments, and while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.